Settling into your power isn't about silencing who you were. It's about inviting the woman you're becoming to take the lead. Pull up a chair, my loves. Today we're turning inner critics into allies and learning how ambitious women can stop letting fear dress itself up as wisdom. Part 1. Introduction. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Cappuccinos and Confidence, your cozy little corner of the internet where we do tiny, honest steps and gentle resets, not performative perfection. I'm recording this with a warm mug beside me again, oat cappuccino, extra cinnamon, because apparently I'm committed to making my healing feel at least as glamorous as possible. And I want you to take a second to arrive with me. Soften your shoulders, unclench your jaw, let your breath drop a little lower. Just one gentle exhale. And I'll be honest, I've had a tender week. Not dramatic, just one of those stretches where my body has been whispering for slower mornings, more pauses, less pushing. I'm learning still that listening sooner is far kinder than waiting until I'm forced to stop. That's part of why this conversation matters so much, because the inner critic doesn't only show up in obvious moments. She doesn't just march into the boardroom shouting. Often she slips in quietly. She sounds polished, rational, helpful even. She makes you second guess the post, delay the pitch, soften the truth, shrink the ask. And before you know it, you're not just managing your fear, you're building your whole life around it. So today we're talking about how to change that. We're talking about the voice inside ambitious women that so often begins as a critic and then evolves into something more sophisticated. Something that sounds like an advisor, but is still rooted in fear. And more importantly, we're talking about how to turn that voice into an ally instead. Not by bullying yourself into confidence, not by pretending you feel amazing when you don't, but by building anchors, using a grounded framework and learning how to lead yourself with honesty and warmth. You're not broken because you have an inner critic. You're human, and if you're a woman with vision, standards, ambition, and heart, it makes complete sense that some protective part of you learn to use fear as a way to stay safe. But lovelies, you don't have to keep handling her the microphone. Handling her? Handing her the microphone. Part 2, the reality check. Let's be honest, my loves, the inner critic gets more sophisticated as you grow. At the beginning, she's easier to spot. She sounds blunt, nervy, young almost. Don't speak so much. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't take up space. Let someone else go first. But as you become more accomplished, more visible, more ambitious, she upgrades her wardrobe. She becomes polished, strategic, respectable. She stops sounding like a bully and starts sounding like a very sensible advisor. She'll say things like, maybe this isn't the right time. You need one more qualification. Just wait until you feel ready. Let's not be too visible right now. Be careful. People might misunderstand you. Tone it down a bit. And because she sounds intelligent, you trust her. That's the reality check. The critic's language may evolve, but her job stays the same. Control through fear. She wants to keep you safe from rejection, judgment, disappointment, exposure, failure, and sometimes even success. Because success changes things. Visibility changes things. Growth changes things. And your nervous system can read change as danger, even when that change is beautiful and deeply aligned. This is why so many ambitious women end up stuck in patterns that look respectable on the outside. Over-preparing instead of starting, tweaking instead of publishing, undercharging instead of asking, staying quiet instead of being clear, making themselves easier to digest instead of fully expressed. The critic doesn't always scream, "You're not good enough." Sometimes she whispers, "Let's just stay sensible." And that whisper can run your life if you're not paying attention. For so many women, this voice is built from old belonging rules. Maybe you learned that being loved meant being low maintenance. Maybe being praised meant being helpful, agreeable, high achieving, or never too much. Maybe you became the reliable one, the easy one, the strong one, the one who could hold it all. So now, when you try to become more visible, more direct, more highly paid, more honest, more yourself, something inside of you flinches. Not because your desire is wrong, because an old part of you still believes safety lives in shrinking. And that's why the inner critic can feel so convincing. She isn't random, she's patterned. She's informed by old emotional maths. If I'm too bold, I might be rejected. If I ask for more, I might lose the opportunity. If I fully show up, I might be judged. If I stop people-pleasing, I might stop belonging. Lovelies, this is where growth gets tender. Because the very part of you that is trying to protect you can also become the part that quietly blocks your visibility, your voice, your rates, your boundaries, your next chapter. So, if you've been procrastinating on the thing that matters most, dimming yourself in rooms you've already earned the right to be in, or feeling strangely guilty every time you rest, that doesn't mean you're failing. It may simply mean your inner critic has become a very polished fear manager. And once you see that clearly, you can stop obeying her automatically. Part 3. The shift. Here's what actually works. You stop trying to destroy the critic and you start leading her. That's the shift. Because if you treat every fearful thought like an enemy, you create more internal warfare, more tension, more shame, more noise. But when you learn how to listen beneath the fear, translate what's happening, and respond from your wiser, steadier self, everything begins to soften. This is a framework I come back to again and again with clients and in my own reactions. The Critic-to-Ally dialogue framework. It's simple, grounded, practical, and it helps you move from self-abandonment to self-leadership. So step 1 is to spot. Notice the moment the critic arrives. Usually your body tells you first. Might be a tight chest, shallow breath, jaw tension, that urgent, boozy need to overwork or retreat, a sudden wobble right before visibility. So start with this line. Sometimes something in me feels unsafe. That creates space without spiraling. Step 2 is name. Give the critic a name and a role. Humor helps. Distance helps. Clarity helps. For example, perfect Paula, the prosecutor, or polite Priya, the pleaser, or deadline Debbie, the taskmaster, or not enough Nadia, the doubter. This reminds you that the critic is a part of you, not the whole of you. Step 3 is to capture. Write down the exact script, not a summary, the actual line. Try. My critic is saying, for example, if you send this, they'll think you're delusional. So this is specific fear is easier to work with than a vague dread. Step 4. Translate. Ask, what are you trying to protect me from? Then ask, what do you need from me right now? Often the answer is surprisingly human. Reassurance, a plan, rest, support, permission, time. This is where the critic begins to soften because she finally feels heard. Step 5. Evidence. Offer truth, not hype. You don't need to argue with a critic. You need to ground yourself. Try, I've done hard things before. Or I usually just say, I can do hard things. I can survive I can survive discomfort. I do not need to feel ready to take one aligned step. My work creates real value. Then list your receipts, your wins, kind feedback, client results, past moments where you handled pressure well. Evidence interrupts the old script. Step 6. Ally line. Now create the response your inner ally would give. The voice is warm, direct, and grounded, not airy, not performative. Some examples are, I can be scared and still move. I'm allowed to take up space. Clarity matters more than perfection. I do not abandon myself to keep the room comfortable. Let that line become an anchor. Step 7. Next step. Choose the smallest, and I underline smallest, aligned actions. Not a dramatic reinvention, just one move that proves self-trust. For example, send the proposal, publish the post, ask for the rate, state the boundary, book the session, speak up in the meeting, take a 10-minute regulation break, then return. Confidence is built through behavior, not just insight. That, my loves, is what actually works. Not waiting to feel fearless, not hustling yourself into exhaustion, not pretending you don't care, but learning how to hear the critic, translate the fear, and let your inner ally lead the next step. Part 4. The real life moment. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. I want to tell you about Ashley, not her real name, of course, but very much a real kind of woman. Brilliant, thoughtful, deeply capable. The kind of woman who had done the qualifications, built the experience, created beautiful results for clients, and yet still felt a loud internal wobble every time it was time to change, to change the pricing in alignment with her value. When we started working together, her critic was not chaotic. She was polished. She sounded measured, intelligent, reasonable. And that was her power. Ashley had a proposal to send to a client, a solid proposal, rooted in real transformation with a rate increase that reflected the level of work she was actually doing on paper. It made complete sense. But just before she hit send, the script arrived. They'll think you're delusional. Not greedy, not silly, delusional. That one word carried so much charge. It was sharp, shame-filled, sophisticated, the sort of line that makes smart women question everything in a matter of seconds. Her body responded immediately, shaky hands, tight chest, that surreal urge to over-explain the price, reduce the rate, or delay sending the proposal altogether. And that is exactly the sort of moment where the critic loves to take over. Because if she can keep you doubting yourself at that point of action, she can keep your life small while sounding wise. So instead of spiraling, as she used the framework, she spotted the response in her body before it became a full story. She named the voice for what it was, not truth. but an old protective part. She captured the exact script. They think you're delusional. Then she translated it. Underneath that line was fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being seen as too much, fear of being misunderstood, fear that visibility and value would cost her belonging. And when she asked what the fearful part actually needed, the answer wasn't dramatic, it was deeply human. It needed reassurance, it needed evidence, it needed her not to abandon herself. So we moved to evidence. She reminded herself her work had created real results. Previous clients had trusted her deeply. The proposal was aligned with the transformation she delivered. Asking for a higher rate did not make her arrogant, it made her honest. Then she chose her ally line. I can ask in alignment and let the answer be theirs. Simple, grounded, regulated. And then came the most important part, the next step. She sent the proposal. Not after another 3 days of tweaking, not after shrinking the number, not after writing a long apologetic paragraph to soften the ask. She sent it and then stepped away for 15 minutes to let her body settle. And do you know what happened? The client said yes. Most of the times, the clients actually say yes. Out of everyone that I've worked with, I may have had maybe one person out of like 20 people say no. So yeah, anyway, but honestly, my loves, the yes wasn't even the deepest win. The deepest win was that Ashley stayed with herself. She didn't collapse after sending it. She didn't spend the next week bracing for punishment. She didn't make herself wrong for wanting more. She proved to her nervous system that she could be visible, ask clearly, and remain safe inside herself. That's the real transformation, not the absence of fear, not some glamorous moment where the critic disappears forever. But the moment you stop letting fear be the final authority, that's when the critic starts losing the microphone. That's when your inner ally begins to sound like home. Part 5, the takeaway. Take this with you, my loves. Your inner critic may sound clever, she may sound polished, she may even sound protective, but you don't need to let her run your life simply because it's learned how to speak in a calm voice. You don't need to abandon yourself to keep the room comfortable. That line matters deeply. Because so much of the work for ambitious women is not just about becoming more confident in public, it's about becoming more loyal to yourself in private. In the quiet moments, in decisions before the email, in the wobble before the meeting, in the pause before you name your rate, your boundary, your truth, your desire. So here's the recap. Your critic often evolves into a sophisticated advisor as you grow. Her goal is usually protection, but her method is fear. Fighting her isn't the answer. Leading her is. The Critic-to-Ally dialogue framework helps you spot the fear, name it, translate it, ground it into evidence, and choose an aligned next step. Real confidence is built when you stay with yourself while taking action. That is the work. Gentle, honest, powerful. So, today, I want you to ask yourself, where have I been calling fear wisdom? And then softly, what would it look like to stay on my own side? If you want support with this personalized, transformational, measurable support, you can explore my coaching offers at nefegantoy.com. And if you want a gentle place to begin, head to the resources page for supportive tools, including a free Wheel of Life worksheet. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are becoming. Until next time, stay confident, stay grounded, and keep sipping your cappuccino. Love and empowerment. Nefe. Bye.